Hey there, and welcome to the IT Guy Show. I'm your host, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, and this is episode 14. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is life as a systems administrator. I knew when I was in probably even in elementary school, I knew I wanted to work on computers, and working on hardware, building things was always a joy of mine. And so, as I kind of alluded to last episode, that was kind of the career path I went. I tried C# and was like, "There's no way." Found out that there's actually a degree program to work on all the boxes with the blinky lights. Check out episode 13 if you want to hear my career story. But I wanted to get another perspective as well. And probably one of my favorite sysadmins out there is none other than the Iron Sysadmin, Mr. Nate Lager. Nate,
Hey
welcome to the
Eric, how
IT
you
Guy Show,
been?
my friend. We
Thanks
we
for
were
having me.
we were just talking during the pre-show that this feels very, very familiar, like we've been in this space before together.
It does. It does. I mean, the platform that we're on, the background is different, and the channel is
It's
different.
decorated.
Yeah.
My office is decorated now. So why don't you? I know who you are, at least I think. So why don't you introduce yourself for the audience and tell us what you're doing and what you do for fun?
Sure. So I'm Nate Lager. I currently work for Red Hat. I have worked for Red Hat for almost 6 years now. The last three or so of those, I work on the same team that Eric was on, and we used to work together. We even did live streams together, which is exactly what he was referring to.
And rebuild Windows laptops to run Linux while at conferences.
Oh yeah, we did a lot of conferences together. Yeah, that first conference I did as a TMM, right? I remember that. We walk in and all the laptops in the RHEL booth are running Windows, and we're like, we can't have this. So we
Like
scrambled to
somebody
find
just
a
picked them up
USB
at Best
stick
Buy or
and
something.
download RHEL and install RHEL on them, and yeah, totally didn't catch fire or anything. Worked perfectly the whole show. So yeah, I've been a technologist and a bit of a nerd for pretty much my whole life. There's lots of other topics I'm sure we're going to get into as we go, but I guess that's the short version.
And what do you do when you're not technologying?
Sure. Well, so when I'm not technologying, I'm also sometimes technologying because it's also a hobby. But I also have this passion for off-road and outdoor sports, and that turns into things like hiking and mountain biking. But the thing I spend the most money on would be the Jeep. I have a Jeep down in the garage that's currently running, although it wasn't for about 4 months this year.
Oh gosh.
That's about the average, right? I get maybe 2/3 of a year where it's not torn apart for a project, because I'm one of those guys. I wheel it for the year, and then when winter comes along, I take it apart and improve stuff, and then the next year I do it all over again.
Allegedly
Oh,
improve stuff.
allegedly, right? Okay, tinker with stuff. How's that?
Right. So when you're not tearing apart computers or servers, you're tearing apart Jeeps. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm, of course, on top of that, it's like the usual life stuff. I've got two little girls and a wife, and my God, my wife and I have been married for over 20 years. Can you believe that?
Oh gosh.
20. We celebrated 21 years last October.
Your marriage is old enough to drink.
It is. It is. It is. We coach youth soccer for my youngest daughter. My older daughter is, believe it or not, just got accepted to a digital marketing program at our local trade school.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
So
we might have
yeah,
to talk about that offline. I'm curious.
yeah.
But congratulations. 21 years is nothing to scoff at for sure.
It's been a dream, perfect dream. No arguments along the way, nothing.
She made you say that, right?
Yeah, if you believe that. Blink twice if you're in trouble, right?
Yeah, Cynthia and I are just a few months shy of 5, and I think we're going to try and take a cruise next year. First time
Awesome.
we've been away for more than 3 or 4 days. It's the joy of having young kids. I keep getting told by people that children are a blessing. So
They
I'm
are.
still waiting on that part to happen.
I think the blessing comes when you're the one that needs care and they're old enough to do it.
Well, there's definitely that, and I plan on paying my kids back for everything that they've put us through. But putting the facetiousness aside, I think the blessing has really been in the last few years, because I've been corrupting my kids with things like Linux and
There you
Dungeons and
go.
Dragons and video games, um, like that picture over. There we go. That picture over there is the Super Nintendo version of Mario Kart. So
Awesome.
anytime we play Mario Kart on the Switch and I get first place, they're like, "You're so good. How did you get so good?" It's like, y'all, I have been playing this game or a version of it since long before you were ever born. Probably
Yeah.
since I was the same age as you guys. So
Mario
yeah.
Kart is the game that everybody talks about trouncing their kids. I have not played a lot of Mario Kart in my life.
Oh well, then you
Mario
haven't lived
Brothers,
much.
plenty. I've played every Mario game I think on the planet.
That one I've fallen off of, but
Yeah.
so we apologize, folks. We'll try and keep this podcast below about 3 hours.
Sure
Um,
we will.
Although to be fair, I came on your show once, and the main segment went for almost an hour and a half out of a
Yeah.
usual,
Yeah.
you know. So,
We had my crazy co-hosts to make that even worse though.
right.
You would think that I would have surrounded myself with people that like filled in the gaps in my own production quality. No, I just brought in people that made them worse.
Yeah, yeah. There's always that. So why don't you uh, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to be a technologist? You said that you've been a technologist a long time and you love
Yeah.
taking things apart. So how did that journey start for you?
So, my God, we're gonna go back to before I knew my alphabet. I'm just warning you right now. My dad worked. I mean, as far back as I can remember, like he's told me stories about when he was first out of high school. He worked for, um, what was it? He literally repaired teletype machines.
Hmm.
Like that was his first job. He repaired teletype machines, and he got into communications. He managed a telephone company, which then, of course, they had a partner company that was the local internet service provider in this area, and he helped design their first network. Right. So as far back as when I was like uh, mid-teens, he was helping build wide area fiber networks for the state. Right. So my dad was a nerd long before I was, is what I'm getting at, right? He has an electrical engineering degree. He had a basement workshop that had all kinds of cool things in it that I was able to tinker with as a kid. And
Hmm.
I credit so much of my nerddom to having been raised by him, right?
Hmm.
My mother was great, don't get me wrong. Like I got a lot of great qualities from her too, but the things that really defined my life, a lot of them came from him. Um, my first memories of computing were literally sitting in the living room. We had a Texas Instruments computer that was connected to the TV, and that's how I learned my alphabet. So I was at a keyboard before I knew what the letters meant,
There you
right?
go.
So um, he had later an Atari computer. We did not have game systems when I was a kid because, it was the 80s and game systems were really expensive. And my parents, not that they were opposed to me playing video games, but they were just an expense we couldn't afford.
Hmm.
But he had this Atari computer which played Atari games. And this was my first introduction to software piracy as well, because he had a friend at work that had like floppies and floppies and floppies of Atari games that were literally on 5.25 inch floppies. And he brought a whole crate of floppies home, and we spent a weekend copying each and every one of them. So that was my game system when I was a kid. And
And your first
computers
felony.
at the time, they weren't. It wasn't easy to just fire up a game. You had to learn how. You had to like, okay, how do I get the computer turned on? How do I get the disk loaded? How do I get it to run the game? Right. This wasn't just pop in a cartridge and hit a power button. So yeah, I think that's a lot of why I got into computers to begin with, because that
Hmm.
turned from like, okay, what else can I do with this thing? Right. And I'm like writing up reports for school on it, and I'm like doing all the things you do with computers. And I got my first personal computer when I was like 14 or 15. It was a Gateway 2000, a 486. And I did so much with that thing. And yeah, I just developed a passion for computing in general. But electronics, computers. I used to do all kinds of stuff. My dad and I built a flashlight together so I could bring it into my second grade class for show and tell. It was like a light bulb with wires all over it on a board that had battery connectors. And I mean, it's a pretty simple circuit, but still, I had a flashlight that was on a piece of wood
Oh,
that
that's
we
so
had
cool.
built at home. It was cool.
I love that.
So, but yeah, so it goes back that far. It really is a lifelong thing. I joke about it. I have the Texas Instruments tattoo right here on my forearm because that was the first computer I ever touched.
I have a feeling we'll be working our way up your arm quite a bit tonight.
Oh yeah, I got others that are from different. I have the Atari on there too.
There you go.
Right there.
So how did that play into your college years? Did you go to school for computing? What did that look like?
Here's the cool thing. In the little town that I live in, there is a trade school. When I was in high school, it was called a vocational technical school, which they have since shed that name because a lot of people associate the term votech with like the stupid kids go there, right? The
Right.
kids who can't do math go there to do something meaningless like learn carpentry
Right.
and build all the freaking houses that we all need to live in, right? I'm a little passionate about this too, but it's essentially a trade school, but it's a high school, right? So yes, kids that don't do well academically will sometimes go to this kind of a school, learn a trade, because that's a great way for them to be a productive adult, not because they're stupid, but because it's what they're good at, right?
That's
Electricians
the way
come
the
out of these
education
things.
system was for centuries.
Yeah.
You would apprentice with someone in town, the carpenter or
Right.
a blacksmith or something, and you'd learn how to do something that the town needed.
Right. So, but yeah, like welders, electricians, like whatever. We had an electronics class at that school, and I decided to enroll in that when I was in 10th grade. Right. So I spent high school learning electronics, and then they changed the shop around they merged it with what they called data processing at the time, which was the only real computer class they offered. And it became this thing that was like a blend of just technology in general. And I got a taste of a whole bunch of different kinds of technologies. And while they were doing that, they had to build a whole bunch of computers to run all of the modular class work. And while they did that, they decided, let's put a computer in every classroom. Let's run a network in the building. And me being one of the better students in the technology side, they said, you're going to be one of the kids that helps us do it. So before I was even out of high school, I'm running Cat 5, I'm punching down, Cat 5 connections, learning how to set up a switch and run a server. And I got my first experience with Windows NT 3 while I was there in high school. Right. And I think a lot of that gave me this love of computer communication. Right. And that's really what led me into not just a career, but a hobby. Right. Like for several years after I got out of high school, I ran an old bulletin board system. And I don't mean a message forum like you see on the internet. I mean old school that you dialed into and got a text prompt and you would play games or talk to people or whatever. And that led to my first job, which was tech support for the local ISP that my dad helped design that network for.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, right. And, I just kind of worked up from there. I really didn't like tech support. No one really likes tech support. No one likes working that job. I was good at it because I had that sort of mind, troubleshooting and problem solving. But it led really well into a career in systems administration, which is kind of the long way around how I got started into systems administration. I really wanted to take that love of communication. I wasn't quite a networking guy, although I probably could have taken that path. It was probably like a razor's edge as to which path I was going to take when I really got into a career. But servers and hosting services and whatever, that's really fascinated me. So that's how I got into systems administration.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that. It was I was at DeVry in the mid 2000s, back when they had a Kansas City campus, and I took like 4 CCNA related courses, bunch of Cisco gear, And then I had 2 operating system classes. One that was a hilarious overview of Linux. It might have even been Red Hat Linux at the time.
Yeah.
Gosh, mid 2000s probably might have been, but then
I think it was 2003 when Red Hat Advanced Server, I guess, was the first one.
Mhm.
But that was when Red Hat Linux kind of went away and became Fedora.
Right. But then you got to remember that colleges and whatnot usually drag behind the industry.
That's
Like
true.
5
That's
or 6
true.
years if you're lucky. But yeah, so the first internship I got, they needed more help on the desktop support and Active Directory administration side. So like you, I think had they have needed more help with like a networking intern, I might have been a network engineer. But
Right.
as it was, I'm either way, I would have been in a data center running cables, building systems, and that kind of thing. So it was very appealing to me. But I'm sure that troubleshooting sysadmin mentality hasn't caused any relational troubles with your spouse at all, right?
Yeah. No, never at all. Never at all. It's been fine. I mean, staying up late at night trying to figure out why the home lab Plex server isn't working right, so that tomorrow morning the kids will be able to watch their cartoons. Yeah,
It's my
totally
favorite
not.
call.
Or
Yeah, home labs are the worst on call I've ever been on.
they are. What's that? Your day of work is over? Yeah. Fix the stuff you choose to run.
Right. Or when you get a text from your wife at work and she's
Oh,
like, "Hey,
right.
I'm on my lunch break and I can't watch the latest episode of,
Whatever. Can you
Downtown
fix
Abbey or
this?
something." It's like, you realize I'm on like a product call, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to do my marketing job, the thing that pays for you to sit around and watch Downtown Abbey. It's like, why am I getting trouble tickets in the middle of my workday?
Yeah,
Gotta
I
love it.
when I obviously I work at home. No, maybe it's not obvious, but I work at home now. But when I one of my longest gigs as a systems administrator was working for a college based in Easton, PA, and I was their senior sysadmin for quite some time. And it's like a 50-minute drive from home to there. So I'd get a call in the middle of the day, the internet is down or whatever, and I'm trying to walk my wife, who's here with like a screaming child, through how to reset the router, right, or the cable modem or something. And yeah, I don't miss those days. I'm happy I'm here, so when things go wrong, I can just fix them.
And I'm sure you can relate to the pre-conference travel network reboot where you shut everything down and start everything back up the day before you leave town just in case.
Just in case. Yep. Yep. Give everything a good fresh reboot.
So you kind of talked about going through college and ended up on the operating system side. What about life as a sysadmin? What types of work had you done? You mentioned college. Uh,
Yeah.
what did that look like?
So, while I worked at that ISP, they had a systems group just like you'd expect, right? They also had a much larger networking and network engineering group, but the systems people were like the ones running the DNS system, they were running email, the systems things that you'd expect. And I tried for years while I worked there to get into that group. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't. Every time I interviewed probably 6 times to get into
Oof.
their systems group, and they just wouldn't hire me. I don't know if I just didn't interview well, if I didn't have the skills they were looking for, whatever. But eventually I got into this little web host, which was like 10 employees when I got hired. Um, and I was hired as their quote unquote network administrator, which basically meant I was responsible for anything in the building that had a CPU in it. And some things that didn't. Like I had to replace the filter in the HVAC unit when it was due. So yeah, I was pretty much the everything, right? The generator. I had to make sure that the generator would run. I had like all kinds of stuff.
I
Um,
used to joke on the support side that anything with an electrical cable fell under the sysadmin's purview.
yeah, yeah. Luckily, I didn't have to like defrost the fridge or anything. But again, right? I don't know if it's everybody that works in this field, but the people who are passionate about it, they have a certain skill set that lends yourself well to troubleshooting the coffee maker, just like it is troubleshooting the web server, right? Because it's just you have the mindset that like analytical and logical workflow of okay, is there water in the coffee maker? Does it have electricity? Right? You can boil it down to the simple things that are required, and then work your way up from there. So I guess I can understand why people depend on the systems or the network guys for stuff that aren't systems or network. But anyway, when I was there, I was responsible for
relationships, though. Oh, well,
what's
you
that?
wouldn't be having this. It doesn't translate well to relationships, though. Well, you wouldn't be having
No.
this problem with Jamie at work if you would just do XYZ.
Yeah,
You
that's
insensitive
definitely a
jerk.
problem. Yeah, yeah, right. I'm not asking to be
You brought me a
resolved.
problem. I gave you a solution. You're upset about it. What's what's wrong with this?
You've missed the point. Yeah, 21 years of marriage, I have learned that lesson. Not always, though. Sometimes I just can't help it.
Although I promised the audience we'd get off topic, but I have learned, and my wife and I have worked this out since we were probably engaged. The question we always ask when we enter a conversation like that, y'all didn't know you're getting free relationship advice today, but the question we always ask when one of us starts down a conversation like that is, are you asking me for a solution, like advice, or are you asking me to listen?
That's a good
Because then I know which side of my brain I'm supposed to be using.
right.
And
Right.
if it's just you want the empathetic, emotional, supportive side, I can do that. If you want me to fix something, all right, bring it on. Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's try to resolve some issues, right?
Right.
Can you log that into the tracking system? Can you give me a ticket ID?
Funny enough, my wife has an email address that links to my Todoist. And so problems like when she'd email me or she'd text me and say, "Hey, this isn't working," it's just like,
There you
log
go.
a ticket. Just
Yeah.
send me an email to that address and I'll get to it. So anyway, you're talking about your
Yeah.
life as a sysadmin.
Right. So at that job, like I said, small place, there were two administrators. I joined as the junior admin, and it might have been 8 months in. The senior admin quit for a better job, and I got promoted. Right. So I went from like the guy the previous place would not promote to systems administrator to senior admin in like 8 months.
Which
Maybe a
translated
year.
may
I
not
don't
have been a
remember exactly
promotion.
how
It
long
was
it
just
was.
more responsibility.
Yeah, it's basically, well, there was a pay increase, so you call it a promotion.
Oh, there you go.
But anyway, at that place, I dealt with FreeBSD systems, some of which were woefully out of date. I managed to get a bit of Linux in place. I don't think there was any there when I started, and when I left, there were maybe a dozen or so. I think they were CentOS at the time servers because they wouldn't pay for RHEL. This was the guy who was like, "Hey, I think we can get 5 more uses out of this Windows license before it locks." Like it was that place, right?
I gotcha.
Even our backup solution was pirated, right? Because the guy wouldn't pay for anything, and me and the other admin were like, "We can't live without a backup system. We need something." That place is no longer in business.
I wonder why.
Yeah, well, I think I was there 4 or 5 years, and I got a ton of experience because, again, I was responsible for everything, and I was the backstop. That was it. There was nobody above me that had the technical chops. So if there was a big issue, it was me figuring out how to fix it. And if it took 3 days, then it took 3 days. But like I said, learned a lot, trial by fire, I guess you'd call it. When I left there, from what I understand, they struggled to get anybody to fill the position that I'd left. Like they brought people in, they'd be there for a couple of months, and they would just throw up their hands and leave. Right? I guess I was the only one with the patience to deal with it. But then I went on to work for the college, and I was there for, I think it was almost 11 years. And they were primarily a RHEL shop. We had a little bit of SUSE Linux, mainly because we had some Novell infrastructure when I first got there, and SUSE and Novell, I guess they were owned by the same company, or SUSE owned Novell. I don't remember anymore. So eventually our SUSE file systems, or our Novell systems were running on top of SUSE. I hate SUSE, by the way. It's a fine Linux, but it's different enough from RHEL that I couldn't get used to it. Like every time I tried to do anything, it was just different enough that it would frustrate the me.
Well, here's I think where you're getting hung up with SUSE, because I've run into this too, is RHEL and its derivatives and Ubuntu are very different,
right?
But SUSE not as much. So it's closer to RHEL than Ubuntu. So
yeah, and the thing
I
is,
think that's kind of the hang up there.
Once you're familiar enough with a RHEL or derivative and a Debian or derivative, then you pretty much have both covered.
Right.
Like all of the major Linuxes out there, you could sit down at any of them and work, right? But SUSE's like, no, we're doing it our way. Nobody's like us.
Right.
Some of the things they feel a whole lot like Red Hat, but other things they're like totally off the wall. And these other things they feel a lot like Debian. So yeah, it's just an oddball. And I guess if you know it and love it, then you probably think the same thing about the other distros, but
fair.
It's just the way it is, right? But so yeah, I guess I didn't really cover this, but Linux I have been poking with since I was in high school. I was as many kids in high school, I was pretty broke. I didn't work until I was out of school, till I was out of high school. There's that gnat, huh?
Yeah, we were talking during the pre-show that there's a fly in Nate's office and there's a gnat thanks to my wife's garden in ours.
It was on my it's on my light now. It's over there. Try to kill it, but that would probably be a bad idea. Anyway,
we probably should have recorded the pre-show. It was a lot of fun.
I picked up Red Hat Linux 5, right? Because I was broke. I wanted to learn more operating systems, and I could not afford things like Windows. I had like the copy of Windows that came with my PC. Everything beyond that, I had to pirate because I just didn't have the money for it. And it was really refreshing to this idea that I could run an operating system that was 100% free. I didn't have to pirate it and feel bad about myself because, as easy as piracy was in the 90s, I still knew it was wrong. I still knew that I shouldn't be doing that, and it really made me feel bad. So yeah, I learned Linux out of pretty much necessity. I wanted an operating system that I didn't have to feel like I had stolen. But yeah, that pretty quickly turned into this interest in Linux specifically, and that was like a focus of my career. Every job I looked for, even from the early days, I wanted to be a Linux administrator. But yeah, so at the college, we were primarily a RHEL shop. By the time I left there, we probably had 200 or 300 RHEL systems. We had a huge Red Hat virtualization deployment. I say huge. It was like, I don't know, 15 or 16 hypervisors. Spread out across 2 separate data centers in several clusters, including like a dev cluster that was completely isolated from production so that people could actually test their stuff before it went into prod. We weren't like a development shop or anything, but we took it seriously. A lot of higher ed, they don't. Either they pay someone else to do it, or they have like a student do it, or an intern do it, and it's just good enough, right? We took it really seriously, and we had a really good team for a really long time. And unfortunately, that team slowly but surely started to either move on for better things, or the one guy, he was our network administrator, and in fact, one of the co-hosts of Iron Sysadmin when we ran it. He actually got fired because he couldn't get along with the new boss that they brought in at one point. So yeah, it's slowly but surely. When I got hired there and I got used to the people, I thought, this is it. I'm going to be here the rest of my career. I'm going to work here until the day I retire because this is awesome. I was surrounded by brilliant people. They were doing really good stuff. I really liked what we were doing because, a lot of the choices we made were not just cool technology choices, although a lot of them were. We were trying to be the best stewards of student data and the lives of these kids that we were trusted with, right? That we could be. We wanted to make sure that we were never the college that would leak your data. We were never the college that was on the front page of news, not just because it would be bad for our careers, but because we really thought like that's the goal. The goal is to not let the bad guys get your data. At this point, so many people's data has been leaked that I don't think it matters anymore. We can just unlock your doors, man. It doesn't matter. but yeah, we had a certain passion there, and as those
Mm,
passionate people started to leave, and then eventually one of those passionate people was the head of the systems group. When he left and they hired in the next guy, he had a whole different outlook on stuff. Not that he didn't care about the student data. He actually was a CISSP, which is, for people who maybe don't know, that's a security certificate or certification that says you are qualified to work with said data, right?
right.
Or protect said data. But he had a whole different opinion about how we should run things. He started pushing us to cloud services, which
Mm,
we had been very opposed to for a very long time. Not to say the cloud is not good, but we had the ability in house, and it was just we were doing a pretty darn good job without paying a cloud provider, and without having to depend on third parties. Right? We had this real independent. I'm kind of rambling at this point. My
no,
point
you're fine.
is, it
We're
went from
we're
a
well below the
really
3 hours.
yeah, it went from a really great feeling, a really great place to work. I really got along with all the people that were there, to like I dreaded going to work in the morning.
Mm,
Like, and my wife was even like, "You are not enjoying your job, and it's coming home, and this isn't okay, right?" And so I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what, because you know I'd been there a decade. Right? It's hard to just up and move after a decade. I'm not the kind of guy that job hops. I just never
mhm.
have been. Right? So that's when the position at Red Hat came along. A friend of mine, and also eventually co-host of the show, although he wasn't one. Was he when I hired? He might have been when I got hired.
Mm.
Um, but he referred me to Red Hat, and well, obviously it worked out because here I am. But yeah, I went there as a TAM, which is like a sysadmin adjacent role. It's like where old sysadmins go when they're tired of being on call. That's the way I always said it.
That's pretty accurate. Not too far off from
Um,
being a solutions architect either. So that's kind of
yeah,
how
I
I
guess
look at
so.
my sales
I guess
role.
so. Yeah, yeah.
Sysadmin adjacent. I like it.
So, but yeah, and then
The difference is you
obviously
don't
I
have
got.
to maintain 10-year-old servers. They last about 10 minutes. You boot them up, you record your screen capture, you shut them down and blow them away. It's
Oh yeah, it was
great.
great because I no longer the only stuff I had to maintain was my home lab at that point. Which that was another thing. While I was at the college still, I was getting so burned out that my home lab was suffering. I was starting to slowly but surely like, boy, this Linux firewall that I handcrafted and is working really awesome. I just don't have the motivation. So
Mm,
I turned it off and I went with like some pre-made, prepackaged Wi-Fi solution for the home, which I hated, but it got the job done. I didn't have to deal with it, right? I eventually got all of my home services down to nothing but Plex,
mm,
right? I didn't do my own email anymore. I didn't do Nextcloud anymore. I moved that stuff all off to Google because I just didn't have the motivation. And that was a sure sign, right?
mm.
Once I got to Red Hat and that started to like shed, then I started to bring stuff back. But I'm still not. I literally used to have commercial service to the home. I ran my own email server here. I
Mm,
ran a small web hosting business out of my basement, right? Like that's how into it I was. And all of that had to go away because I was so burned out.
mm.
I haven't brought all that back, but yeah. Game servers, Plex, home automation. I'm really into like home assistant, home automation now, which is a lot of fun. That's probably one of the biggest, most important things that run out of my home lab,
Mm.
because without it, the lights don't turn on and off when you ask the things to turn on and off.
So let's kind of talk about that transition from sysadmin to Red Hat. What convinced you to leave the IT operations world for being customer facing?
So, to be honest, we haven't really talked much about content creation, but that kind of threads in here. In
Mhm.
2017, I was still at the college. I had actually come home from there was a security conference that I went to every year called DerbyCon, and every year when I went there, I would come home feeling recharged because it wasn't just. I don't know how to describe the feel. This conference was like a family.
Mm,
Like we would go to Louisville, Kentucky every year, And there was a good number of people that these are the only time in the year that I saw them. We would get together, we'd see each other, we'd have a couple drinks together, we would talk about cybersecurity, we'd learn some things, and then we would go home. And I would always come home from that place feeling really recharged. And the one year, for whatever reason, I wanted to do something to give back, right?
Hmm.
Like there were a lot of information security podcasts. There were almost no operations podcasts at the time.
Still aren't.
Right. There was the admin podcast, which I don't know if they're recording anymore. They were one, right? And that was kind of it. There was just no one else doing ops focused podcasts. So I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast. So I got a hold of Jason. He was that network engineer I talked about. I'm like, hey, you want to start a podcast? He would also go to DerbyCon with me, by the way. That was one of the reasons I reached out to him first. And he and I used to carpool together. So we had a really good rapport. I'm like, let's start a podcast. And it took a little bit of convincing, but not a whole lot. And that's how Iron Sysadmin was born. And I really enjoyed the content creation side. We started as just an audio only podcast. I pretty quickly got us into live streaming, and then I moved that into video production. Jason wasn't really much into the video side of things, but I was. I enjoyed making these how-to videos. I was writing blogs, all the things that I do now as a day job as a technical marketing manager, right? Like that's pretty much the job description, right?
Right.
Except for the slide decks. I didn't make slide decks before I came to Red Hat. So I kind of already had this feeling that I wanted to get out of the day-to-day grind of operations. And this isn't for everybody. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that they're perfectly happy to live in their cubicle and never see people. And that is fine. We need those people, right? Like those people
sure.
are keeping the country running. And we need
Quite
them,
literally.
right?
Quite literally.
But exactly, right. Quite literally. They're running the infrastructure that makes our day-to-day lives possible. And I have a lot of respect for those people. I was one of those people for a long time. And, it's great. We need those folks. But for me, I just wanted something different. And the TAM role wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I saw it as a gateway into a place I always wanted to work. I mean, back when I was working that tech support job, there was another guy there who was also into Linux. There were only a handful of us that thought Linux was this neat thing. And he told me about how cool the offices at Red Hat are. He's like, we should go work there. I'm like, okay, how do we do that? Right? And it never really panned out, but the idea was set then. And throughout my whole career, I was a Red Hat guy. I was using Red Hat Linux, then Fedora Linux. And then, of course, at the college, I was the Red Hat guy. Like every time there was this weird issue, they would come to me. I was the guy that knew it. So working for Red Hat was like a no-brainer. And I thought this is the perfect way to get in, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And then, like I said, about 3 years into that, I got the TMM role, and it's so perfectly aligned with what I'm enjoying doing right now and the software that I like to work with, right? I mean, you know this, but your audience may not. The technical marketing role is so much more than marketing, right? Like I'm a technical guy that is showing the product to technical people, right? Like, yes, I'm marketing, but it really isn't. You know what I mean?
Well, and actually having moved on from that role, because you and I were in the exact same position,
Right.
and having interviewed for roles elsewhere, I can also tell you that what we did or what you do now as a technical marketing manager is what some companies call DevRel, or maybe in our case, OpsRel, because we're on the operations side.
Yeah.
But I would interview with companies, and they'd be like, you're not a content creator. You're not out there in the community for this position. You're like building messaging and coming up with SEO keywords. And it's like, well, that's the boring stuff that you have
It's
to
the
do
boring side
before
of
you know
marketing.
what the fun stuff is that you have to create. So
Right.
the TMM role at Red Hat is so unique, from the bit of research that I've done over the past year, and it really was. It was very sysadmin adjacent. I only half jokingly say that you stand up a system only to blow it away a few minutes later.
Yeah, but you get to, in that few minutes, right? You get to build something,
Yeah.
right? Like
sure.
some of the demo systems I've built have been like, okay, here's the identity domain, and over there's the web server, and here's the this, and there's the that. Okay, now I got a 15-minute demo to do, and then I can blow it away when I'm done.
Yep.
And you get to do that every day. Maybe not every day, a couple times a week.
Yeah, there's the product marketing side of meetings and
Yeah.
messaging guides and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you get to do that a few times a week, and you're in an amazing position where you get to create content and host podcasts. You know, I was very happy to at one point I was hosting 2 shows on the Rel channel. And when you joined the team, I was very happy to hand you one of them, so I wasn't having to come up with content with it every week.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Actually, we've kind of gone off script here, as I knew we would. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Into the Terminal and some of the cool stuff you get to do with that?
Sure. So we still haven't found someone to host Rel Presents since you left. So maybe that'll come back. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be reborn as something different. We're not really sure yet.
Could
But there's
always pay me a few bucks to.
Here we go.
Actually,
We'll
I'd
bring
settle
you in as a
for a decent Rel subscription for like
bring you
satellite.
in as a
I have my Rel
contractor.
developer subscription, but it doesn't get me things like satellite. So we
Right,
can talk about
right.
that. I'll be a consultant.
But Into the Terminal is what it sounds like. We literally every Friday, it's live at noon Eastern. Go check out the Red Hat Enterprise Linux channel. But me and Scott, usually me and Scott. Sometimes it's me and someone else, or Scott and someone else, depending on if someone's out on vacation or something. But we pick a topic and we do a 30-ish, usually more like 45 to 60-ish minute.
Well, ever since you let go of your producer, it's been closer to an hour.
Dude, we had an hour and a half one with me and Matt Mycini the one day, and I'm like, Eric would shoot me right now. But anyway, we do basically, we show you it's not just marketing demos. It's
anything but.
Well, it's there to teach you. It really is. Like we pick a topic, and yes, obviously we're motivated by showing people this stuff on Rel, but we intentionally pick most of our topics so they're not Rel specific. They're user management. They're some container basics. We're going to take a Rel system. We're going to use Podman. We're going to build out a container. We're going to show people how to run containers on top of Rel. Surprise, that's not a Rel specific thing. You can run Podman on lots of platforms that are not Rel, and everything we're going to talk about is going to be Docker relatable, right? So, it's there. Imagine you're some aspiring developer and you want to learn about containers. The idea is that you can find this video and you can learn a little bit about containers, and you're introduced to Rel at the same time. So, we enjoy it.
Or you want to
hopefully get something out of it.
Home lab without all the application cruft. All of my workloads here at home are containerized. So
oh, right. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I've got a handful of virtual machines when I need to, but I think there's 3 virtual machines that are actually running infrastructure. The rest of them are things that I spin up for demos and labs and stuff, and then they get trashed, the day after. Everything I do, even my public services, because I can't run those from home. I don't have an awesome fiber internet connection like you do. I run a system on a colo provider called Hetzner. They're based in Helsinki, but if you haven't tried Hetzner, it's like $50 for an actual server. It's an AMD 16 core, 64 gig of memory machine running in an actual data center on the other side of the world for $50 a month. I mean, find that in the US. Good luck. Anyway, everything that's on that is also containerized. I run a couple of websites. I run my Mastodon instance. I run a second Mastodon instance for the off-road community, which I'm still having trouble getting people to buy into that. Mastodon is so awesome. We can have a whole show about Mastodon. Maybe I'll come back someday. We'll talk about that. I run a PeerTube instance or 2. I run a game server or 2 that I couldn't do out of the home. All of it, 100% Podman containerized. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Anyway, we were talking about Into the Terminal. And then we went off on another tangent. But anyway, that's the sort of content you can expect, right? It's usually Scott used to be an instructor for Red Hat, so he brings that to the table. I used to be an administrator, so I bring that to the table, and we really try to make it instructional content, not just markety stuff.
Yeah, for sure. We completely went off script, but I feel like we kind of covered a lot of the major topics. But
I think we
one
did.
thing I wanted to ask you about was the Jeep side of things, the off road. How has your IT career kind of played into that? How has your off roading content creation played into your IT career, and how does all that kind of factor in with this path of being a technical marketer these days? They from hearing you talk, and I think the audience will enjoy this. Hearing you talk, it's kind of the three or different pillars of the same thing. And so when one improves or one gets some love, then the other two benefit.
Right. So it's weird, right? You wouldn't expect, maybe this is stereotypical of me, but you wouldn't expect someone who works in technology like I do to also be as into motorsports as I am, or even outdoors, right? Um, but again, this comes back to my dad. He was a technologist. He was also a car guy, not like a crazy car guy. We didn't have like an old rusted out Camaro in the front yard or anything. But when he was a teenager, and he's told me stories about this because I live in the house he grew up in. This was my grandfather's place. There's like this big gnarly hook in the floorboards of the floor above the garage. And one day he was over, we were working on a project, and he pointed out the hook and he goes, "I hoisted an engine out of a car with that hook."
Mm,
So my dad, when he was a teenager or a young adult, he was into cars too. But for me, it stuck. It's still been a thing, right? I've been into vehicles, primarily Jeeps, right? Um, and that goes back as far back as when I was in college. I was carpooling with a guy. It's funny how many stories I have that start with the guy that I carpooled with. He owned a Jeep. I was driving like a Chevy Blazer at the time, and I was hooked. Right, the Jeep is just such a fun vehicle that I decided to buy one. I traded in that Blazer and bought my first Jeep, and I've not been without a Jeep since. It's
mm,
like 30 years. But I started a YouTube channel around it. Actually, first a website where I wrote blogs and tech content, and then it moved into YouTube because it's a very visual thing, right? Like that sort of sport, not just the adventures you go on, but the stuff you do. And a
mhm,
lot of what I do from a technology space, it's really kind of mirrored in this automotive space because I make how-to content. I just share projects I'm working on. I sometimes go out and do trips, and I'll do a video about the trip. Um, and that's all running at a property I call SWB Crawler. And SWB stands for short wheelbase because Jeeps are short wheelbase. So that's where that all came about. But you can find that on YouTube or swbcrawler.com. And I won't bore you with too many of the details there because I could go on just as long about off road and motorsports and stuff.
But if you are listening to this and you are interested, all of Nate's links will of course be in the show notes as always. So we'll definitely include a link to the website and the YouTube channel as well. But yeah,
Right,
go
right.
on.
And I started the YouTube channel there, similar time frame to when I started Iron Sysadmin. I think it was maybe a couple months earlier that I had done that, and that was mainly because I was running the website and I wanted a place to be able to cheaply host video content. Because
Hmm.
hosting video content on your own website is tricky, right? Like it takes a lot of space, a lot of bandwidth. How do you autoplay, that kind of stuff? And YouTube solves all those problems. So it really started out as just I need a place to be able to put a video that I can link it in my blogs and stuff. And then pretty quickly I realized that like YouTube is a platform all by itself. You don't have to just use it as a place to store your videos. It is its own ecosystem, right?
Hmm.
So that's how the channel came about. So I kind of manage both and they keep going. But I the skill set, maybe the mindset, not the skill set. The mindset is so similar between the two because I do a lot of building, except I do it with steel and welders and wrenches and stuff instead of code and APIs and web services and whatever. Um, so it's a lot of the same. It scratches the same itch. I'll put it that way.
Mm.
Except at the end of it, you have this physical thing that you can go have fun with. And it's not just me. The kids go with me. My wife goes with me. She has her own Jeep, which is not nearly as like crazy as mine because that's the thing that she carts the kids around in and stuff. It's not usually taken apart for months in a row like mine is. But yeah, we recently upgraded and got a truck and a trailer. So now my Jeep gets towed around to different destinations. So I don't have to keep it as friendly for the road anymore. And it's just going to be downhill from here.
So I've been experimenting for a few episodes with what I affectionately call the lightning round. So I'm going to hit you with a few questions and just quick, short answers, whatever comes to mind.
I'll do my best.
I feel like I need a countdown on the screen or some kind of music underneath. We'll figure it out.
You need the little the chimes from Excite Bike. You ever play Excite Bike?
I don't
This
think
is
I
this is
have.
Nintendo Entertainment System. This might be before your time. I might be dating myself. This is before the Super Nintendo. Although I think there was a Super
Says the guy
Excite
who's
Bike.
like 4 years older than me.
I don't know. I feel like there's a whole nerd culture that there's a gap between what I remember as a kid and you. I think things were just moving really quickly in that era. But anyway,
Yeah. I don't disagree. All right, you ready?
sure.
I feel like now I need like the lights to change, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, right.
But between our knowledge of lighting and home automation,
We could make this happen.
All right, lightning round. Question number 1. Favorite CLI tool?
Favorite CLI tool? Can I just like softball it and say Bash? I love Bash. Like Bash in general, the flexibility, the ability to script or just interact with it. But if it has to be a specific tool, that's a tough one. Favorite CLI tool? Vim. Vim is my favorite CLI tool.
You may have just started a war in the comments. I'm okay with this.
Well, there is no other editor.
Right.
What do you use? Nano?
Right. Now this next question I already know the answer to, but I want to ask it anyway. Your go-to distro or technology stack for your home lab?
So I mean, I obviously have a certain fealty to RHEL, so that's what my home lab is running. The Hetzner machine is on CentOS Stream though, because that was the only option they gave me that was RHEL like when I had them build it. My laptops all run Fedora though.
Very nice, very nice. You running what just came out? Fedora 42.
So I got 42 on the framework, and I have Bazite on my gaming machine.
Oh, nice. How you liking Bazite?
I love it. I was running Fedora proper for a long time. I tried Bazite. I felt like restricted, but that was mainly because I didn't understand how it worked. Because it's immutable, right? It's now based on Bootsy, which is what RHEL Image Mode is based on. So that was another reason I went back to it. I ran Fedora normal for a while on my gaming rig, and then I went back to it because I'm like, I really got to get a good handle on Bootsy, and I figured the best way to do that is to make myself use it in Fedora. So here we are.
There you go.
But it's really good. I was just talking to some coworkers today. I'm like, gaming on Linux is a solved problem now. You install Bazite.
Make me want to buy my framework even more now.
Install Steam, install games, play. I would argue it's an easier experience than Windows. I have better luck running Windows games in Bazite than I do on Windows.
Interesting.
Yes.
Now we both officially have failed the lightning round, but hey.
Well, whatever. I go on. Okay, what's next? I'll try to make it quick.
I knew what I was getting myself into when I invited you on the show, so I have no one to blame but myself. All right, next question. What tech are you most excited about right now?
Image mode. Or Bootsy.
I like it.
It's really I say this with all honesty, even when I'm standing at the RHEL booth or when I'm talking to someone like you. I think it will revolutionize the operations role. Yeah, it's that big. I think it's that big, and it's not just because I work for Red Hat. I think it's amazing. It's really cool technology.
Well, and it's one that Red Hat may have started the charge on, but I was shocked over the past year or so at how much the Fedora community has taken it and run. Like all of their immutable operating systems now are, I don't want to say all, it's been a bit, but most, if not all of their spins, all of their downstream distribution, Silverblue, all of that has gone from just being
Yep.
immutable to being built off of boot C. So
It's
if you
a
don't mind, shoot me a link and I'll make sure that we get a video in the show notes explaining what boot C and immutable is.
I'll do my best. I don't know what we have yet. There's probably something with my C&E doing it. I'll find something.
All right, last question in the lightning round.
Okay.
What technology is currently overhyped?
I really want to say AI, but I really think that there's a lot to AI, right? If you'd asked me a year ago, it would have been, or maybe 2 years ago, it'd have been that metaverse crap. But yeah,
This seems
AI.
to have successfully washed itself out.
I feel like there's a lot to AI that is good, but there's a lot that, and maybe this is because I haven't used it enough or understand it well enough yet, but there's a lot that feels like smoke and mirrors.
Hmm.
And that's just me being cynical, maybe. I don't know. But it's neat technology, don't get me wrong. But I think there's people are like, oh, this is going to change the world. And I think that might be much. I guess we'll see in a couple of years if I'm wrong. Just keep this recording around and we'll listen to it later and see if I regret it.
Go. So I don't ever want to walk away from an episode without contributing something to the audience. And I can think of very few people that I trust more than you, Mr. Lager. What if there's someone who's going to school or someone who is going to a Votech or someone, even if you're sending a message back in time to young Nate, what advice would you give to someone who's getting into tech, into IT, and even more specifically into systems administration? Because let's be honest, that's what this podcast, that's what the IT guy thing is all about. Is about
Yeah.
sending this back in time eventually to previous Eric, to past Eric, to make him a better technologist sooner.
Don't be too full of yourself.
Mm.
There was a lot of that, like showmanship or
Interesting.
one-upping, right? when I was getting into systems or into Linux in general, where it was like everybody was trying to be better than the people around them. And
Mm.
I'm not saying you shouldn't try to be better than the people around you, but you should not make that your only goal, right? And just like embrace it. You're going to be wrong sometimes, you're going to be right sometimes, you're going to learn from your mistakes, and that's fine.
I like
Right?
that. I like that a lot. It's
You
funny,
don't have to be perfect.
You and I came to be where we are in very different directions, because my biggest fear, my biggest fight has always been and continues to be imposter syndrome. I've
Hmm.
worked for some of the biggest names in technology and still think, what am I doing here? I mean, I was I was kind of a lousy sysadmin, but I constantly deal with that inadequacy. But like you, I kind of came to a place where I've learned to not take myself very seriously and just own that and have a lot of fun with it. So, a few months ago, I was at a conference and I gave a talk, and I just I was just so paranoid about the demo not going well. And of course, it was on Image Builder, one of my favorite technologies ever. And
Yeah.
and so one, I didn't want people to watch as hundreds of packages downloaded into an image, into a pre-built image, but I also didn't want to get up on stage and then have my demo explode. So I pre-recorded the thing, because that's what I do with Image Builder demos is I
Yeah.
pre-record
Makes
them
sense. You can speed
and
up
do
pieces. You're
some
sure it's
post
going to work
editing.
right. Yeah. Yep.
But I've learned to just be okay with things, not take myself very seriously, and and especially now in my life as a marketer, it's like, what's the worst that can happen? I blow a demo. Oh well,
If
there's another demo another day.
if there's one thing that has humbled my presentation skills, it's the live streams on Fridays. The number of demos that you put in the prep, or maybe you didn't put enough prep in. That
Right.
happens too sometimes, and it just goes horribly sideways. And you've got to recover from it. You just have to accept it and move on because it's live. You can't. There is no post.
Right.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's been like 2 years since I think it was Scott and I did an episode on sudo,
The
or was
pseudo
it you and
episode.
I?
Yeah. It was
The
you and Scott. I would not have been part of that. Trust
the
me. I would have
sudo
prepped more than that.
episode haunts me to this day after 2
We
years.
still joke about it. We
Scott
still
and I
joke
were like,
about it
"We
as
got this. It's sudo. How hard could it be?" And then we broke the
still
config.
every time a demo goes wrong, we go, well, at least it's not as bad as the pseudo episode.
Oh,
Like that's
so
still
bad.
the joke.
So bad.
But I back to your point about imposter syndrome. I definitely feel you. Every one of those jobs that I talked about, especially in the beginning, the tech support job, I thought like I can't do this. There's no way I can do this, even though I was really good at it. Right. That first network administration job, I thought any minute they were going to be like, this guy, we hired the wrong guy, and they were going to fire me. But every job I've held, everyone's told me what a great job I do. And still, every job I've held, I worry that any minute they're going to realize how wrong they were.
Right.
Even as a TAM, right? It took me
especially
years.
when I moved to the product side.
It took me years as a TAM to finally feel like I was even doing the job right. Right. And then it's really only because I have such close relationships now with the people who are experts on RHEL that I feel like I can finally like feel sure that the stuff I'm saying, I'm sure is right, and I'm sure it's true, and I'm sure, whatever. But I still in the back of my head, every time I talk to a customer or whatever, I'm like, I got to make sure I say this perfect. When realistically it can't happen, right?
As a TMM, I actually found a lot of relief in the fact that I was one of the smarter minds in the room, but I didn't have to be the smartest. I always had that option to reach out to engineering. So if someone had a question, I could ask the team, I could ask all of our TAMs or our SAs. I mean, I was part of the RHEL community of practice at Red Hat for a long time, where people far smarter than I would talk about things far deeper than I understood. And worst case, I just reached out to engineering and just said, hey, I've got this thing I'm trying to build. It's in the release notes. I can't get it to work. Can you help me? It was so nice that I could go out and go, look at this beautiful thing. And guess what? I did nothing to build it. I'm just the monkey on the stage dancing around telling everybody how great this is. And I love that. I mean, that's why I do what I do. I love that. Maybe
But
it's just
even
something about me that I
as
don't come up with anything on my own, but
even in the TAM role, you had that network of people to back you up, not just the other TAMs, but the same network of engineers or support reps or whatever. The number of support engineers that I like still chat with today, even though I have absolutely no reason, because they were really good people, and they, you built those relationships with folks. But whenever I was stumped, I just reach out to, and I honestly ended up making a lot of connections within the team that I currently work in, because the TAM role was so RHEL related that I ended up talking to like product managers for RHEL, who are now the people I work directly with. So,
yeah, it's amazing how things worked out. And I alluded to this in the previous episode, but it seems so disjointed, so weird, this progression that I've been on. But having hit this stage of my career, and I work in product marketing. I'm a teacher. I'm an open source podcaster, and it's just so crazy. And yet it all makes logical sense. Looking at this milestone backwards, it makes all kinds of sense, going from support to systems administration to Linux to sales to marketing to teaching.
It didn't feel like a plan when you did it, right? But now that you look back, you're like, wow, I might have. It's like I knew I was trying to get here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many job interviews I went through where they're like, you've got a lot of personality, a lot of charisma for a systems engineer. Are you sure you want to sit behind a desk all day? It's like, I'm a technologist, and I'm not a networking guy, and I'm not a developer. What else am I going to do?
I had been getting that. In fact, in college, right? I went to a business school. It was only an 18-month program. I got an associate's degree out of it. And it was on PC networking, right? In my tradition of vaguely named things, right? But I learned stuff like Novell and Windows, and we had an enterprise networking class, which was basically like, take all that stuff that we taught you, all the different individual components, and now we're going to make them work together, right? And the guy that taught there I'll never forget him. His name was Mark Weber. He was an industry guy that they had hired in to teach this class, and older guy, real tall and wiry. He was like the white hair but still a black mustache kind of guy,
Gosh.
right? And such a weird personality, but I got along with the guy so well. And he made a
What did
comment
they
to
say
me
about
one
you?
day. We had like an interview day, right? And everybody had to come in dressed up for an interview. And I came in a suit, right? Because I owned a suit, right? I had been using it for church my entire like life. I always owned a suit, right? I come in a suit, tie, everything, right? And of course, everybody else is in button-down shirts and ties and suits and whatever, right? And I'm talking to him, and there's like a couple other folks right around me. And he looks at my suit and he goes, "You know what's different about you?" He goes, "You look like you belong in the suit. They look like techs in suits."
Mm.
And it took me forever to realize what he meant. And what he meant was exactly what you're just saying, that while I had the technical aptitude, I also had that person interface,
Mm.
right? Where all those other guys were just techs in suits, right? So, I mean, take it for what it's worth, but that's something that I've heard in different forms my whole career as a systems administrator, that I can work well with people, where I never thought I was a people person, but
Hmm.
that's what I was getting told, and I'm like, "You're wrong, whatever." Right, well, here I am.
Yep. For me, it was Adam Olson at DevOps Days, Kansas City, in the Expo Hall in 2018. He basically said, and I talked about this at length in the last episode, but the short version was, I was wandering around so excited about this idea of DevOps and helping developers achieve their goals while getting out of the sysadmin's ways, and I was talking to him about how great the conference was, and he's like, you you need to come work for GitLab. It's like, you don't get a choice. Go home, put in an application, come work for GitLab. Like, well, somebody says you don't have a choice. It's like, well, I guess I better apply. I'm not going to get the
Yeah,
job, but
right.
but then I spent a year at GitLab, and then 5.5 at Red Hat, and just it's been a crazy ride for sure. And it ain't over, because now I'm a professor. I mean, who tell 2011 Eric, who was looking at, do I go deeper into the Windows ecosystem, or do I go full-fledged into this Linux thing? Except no Windows work, do only Linux, and tell them that not only are you going to make the right choice with this Linux thing, because it's going to eventually eat the internet, but then you're eventually going to be a professor and teach this stuff.
Right.
He would have
That's
said,
a
"You're
pretty
insane, and I have a padded room for you."
it's a pretty cool step though, to be able to teach. Yeah.
Although, what do they say about people that can't do?
Yeah, people that can't do teach, or people that can't do coach, right?
Right.
Which let me tell you about the youth soccer team that I help coach someday, because I cannot play soccer.
Well, I will admittedly say that I ripped this off from, I think it's Floss Weekly. But is there anything on today's show that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about?
You shouldn't floss weekly. You should floss daily. The dentist says so.
Well, having just gone to the dentist and gotten a couple of fillings replaced, there might be some truth to that.
There you go. Anything that we haven't talked about? I don't think so. We've already gone on an hour and 10 almost. So yeah, no, I think we covered it pretty well. Except for we'll have to come back and talk about image mode or Mastodon someday.
So you might find it interesting, and this will be an early teaser for the audience. But I'm actually, so a lot of folks know that I worked for Red Hat for 5.5 years. Unfortunately, got laid off and spent 96 days working overnights at a gas station. And now I'm back in product marketing, back doing this kind of stuff as well. But what happened during that period was I let all of my subscription services lapse, and the bill I had to pay to restart some of those services uh, was just brutal. And I've been fed up with proprietary cloud-based subscription-based nonsense this year, because it's one thing when they come in a piece at a time over the course of a month,
Right.
but then when you go in and go, well, I'm back in tech. It's been 3 months, and all the stuff I was paying, annually or monthly or whatever, now I got to pay to restart all those tools that I was using. Great.
Yep. Yep.
It hit me so hard how much money I just pour into a subscription when I have the knowledge and the skill set required and the network required to host a lot of this crap myself. And the
Yeah.
beautiful thing is, Podman file and 5 minutes looking over a Podman application website, use these arguments. And now you can run Minecraft, you can run Valheim, you can run Nextcloud, you can run Plex. I mean, a lot of my home network is running on Unraid in containers. So here's the sneak peek, was that I'm looking at ripping all that out, maybe moving to Proxmox or another hypervisor, maybe just CentOS Stream or something along those lines as the host, and run everything in containers and VMs, and
Mhm.
start pulling all that back in, just a piece at a time. I'm not going to host my own email. It's the world is just too insane to, and
Therein
being
lies madness.
blacklisted.
Trust me.
Yeah,
I
so I draw the
one of
line
my
at
core
email.
responsibilities at the college was email for the entire institution, and I
Mhm.
never want to run a mail server again, ever.
But I'm to a point where I draw the line at mail.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But things like Nextcloud or getting an RSS reader up and running. I want to take an inventory now that school's going, now that everything's in place for that, now that I feel like I've got a good rhythm there. I'm wanting to start planning. Some people talk about de-Googlifying their life. Well, I'm going to try and de-subscription my life. Just piece of time, see what I can bring home and set up in the home lab and run it as a home production network.
It's a valiant goal, I'll give you that.
And we'll see how far I get. But
Yeah,
things like even just getting off things like Twitter, just word of warning, if you disable your Twitter for a couple of months, they'll just delete your account. I had over 800 followers before I went working nights, and I shut down my Twitter for a few months, and when I came back to working days and working in tech, I was like, "Oh, let's just go restart my Twitter account." And after several months and only 18 followers, I was like, "You know what? Pretty much everyone I talk to is on Mastodon anyway. Maybe I'll just start my own Mastodon instance. It's super easy to do. Maybe I'll set up my own PeerTube as a backup for YouTube. Try some of these different things and get involved in the Fediverse and
I
and
mean,
you know,
if you don't want to run some of those yourself, I have instances for things like PeerTube, and I have instances for Mastodon. You're more than welcome on those. I run an Iron Sysadmin PeerTube, which is mainly a place that I share stuff that I want to go to the Fediverse, or stuff that I want to host that I don't necessarily want to put on YouTube. It supports live streaming, it supports video. So, let me
Nice.
know if you want to use it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that. So that's kind of where I'm heading, and we'll see how that goes. And of course, because I've got this channel, and you constantly have to be greasing the algorithms to get attention, I'm going to try and turn a lot of it into content. In fact, some of the most successful technologists I know work in the product space because they started a blog on a website that no one knew about, just to start documenting their own services. So
Yeah. That's way back. That's how I got started. Before I had Iron Sysadmin, the way I learned how to run services was I started running services. And the domain that I registered when I started doing that was underground.org, UNDRGROUND.org, because the normal spelling of it was already taken.
right.
And I have owned that domain since. That was 2002. And it's been a blog ever since, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
don't blog regularly, but there's stuff on there from probably a decade and a half or two ago that, just articles that I wrote to document how I did a thing. Hopefully someone else would find useful, right? So yeah, that's exactly how I got started too. It's funny you mention it.
Yeah, I think it's time to formalize that process. I've got stuff scattered between Google Docs, Word Docs, Notes, Apple Notes. I think there's some Joplin files floating around somewhere. I think it's time to kind of standardize all that. Well, folks, I really appreciate y'all sticking around. I know Nate and I went a little long. I did promise such
Surprise.
when we kicked off. We didn't go as long as I thought, but hey.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
It's not 3 hours yet. We could keep going though if you want.
so we'll definitely include links to Nate's social media and links to the Iron Sysadmin and SWB Crawler. All the things as usual. Check the show notes for all that. And Nate, I really appreciate you joining me, and it was fun to catch up before the show, and it was fun to
There went the fly.
it's fun to catch up before the show. It's fun to do a show with you. It's been a couple of years, literally, if you can believe that, since we've been
Yeah.
on air together. So really appreciate you jumping in and just sitting down and having a chat with me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, and I've already got it in writing that you've agreed to come back for multiple more episodes. So,
Yeah, I mean, I did a talk about Mastodon for our local DEF CON group, which is something else we didn't talk about. The DEF CON group that I help run, specifically about getting off of commercial social media and moving to Mastodon. So I would be happy to talk about it on your show.
For sure, I'll try and take you up on that. But as it stands now, I've eaten into Nate's evening, and if y'all haven't noticed, my dogs have been running back and forth because they know
I hear him
they're
squeaking the
fine.
toys back there.
Yeah, so there's that. But definitely appreciate all of y'all tuning in. Definitely appreciate Nate as a friend, as a colleague, and as my guest this episode. Tune in 2 weeks. We'll be live. Well, we won't be live. We'll be next episode will feature Chris DeMars, who is a front-end developer advocate these days. He does talks all over the place. Does talks online, does talks at conferences. You might recognize the name Chris DeMars. Again, front-end developer. He's a coworker of mine, and we're going to talk about what it means to be a developer. We'll talk about what DevRel really is, and we'll talk about what he does. Lots of cool stuff, and we'll put a bit of a developer twist on this career storyline. So really looking forward to my interview with Chris DeMars. But until then, be sure to subscribe and go, if you haven't, check out some of the other episodes that we've had, a few months now and haven't missed a date yet. So, really excited about that. But thank you all for joining us. Make sure to like this content, stupid algorithms. And if you don't mind, share with a friend. Would really appreciate getting the word out about this content. Not because y'all enjoy listening to me talk, but I know a bunch of amazing and interesting people like Chris DeMars. And then there's other people like Nate. But, anyway, be sure to tell a friend. Really appreciate you all tuning in. It's time we all get out of here. On behalf of my guests today, Nate Legger, and myself, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, this has been the IT Guy Show, episode number 14. And I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Bye-bye.
Have a great one, everybody.